leaving a meeting and talking to this guy, and this is the key to my happiness right here. He said, "Well, why don't you turn that over in your morning routine?" I go, "Morning routine? What's a morning routine?" And he started to say, I read this prayer from this book, all non-denominational stuff out of secular things, so it wouldn't set off any alarms,
Yeah.
And I'm listening to him, and I guess he caught my face, and he said, "Look, I timed it just for you. It only takes 7 minutes." So he knew what I was thinking. And then he follows it up with this. He says, "When was the last time you woke up and were just 7 minutes earlier, and were kind and loving to Darrell?"
Well, hello, and welcome to another exclusive interview by Recovery Today Magazine at recoverytodaymagazine.com, where first and foremost, we're a magazine of hope. Whether you're considering addiction recovery for yourself, a loved one, maybe you're in recovery a long time or a little while, you're going to find everything you could ever imagine related to really living a happy, successful, and sober life at Recovery Today. My name's Rob Hammy. I'm the editor-in-chief of Recovery Today, and as usual, in every single interview we do, another really, really, really cool guest that I'm very, very excited about interviewing today. He is a decorated U.S. Coast Guard veteran. He's the author of What If Godzilla Just Wanted a Hug. He's an artist who once exhibited with Andy Warhol, and in a previous life he was a stunt coordinator, most notable for the movie Con Air, with a lot of explosions and a lot of stunts. He's also one of our Recovery Today magazine family and our subscribers' favorite. Please welcome my friend, Darrell Fusaro. Darrell, thanks for jumping on, man.
Yay! It's so great to hear the crowd roar like that. I love this show.
Live and in person, Madison Square, right?
Well, it's great to be here. I just got to say, first of all, I am so, and this isn't just blowing smoke up, I really am thrilled that you invited me to submit a regular article to Recovery Day magazine for my own selfish reasons, because it gives me one more tool, a month that I have to think about writing the article. So it's one more thing that helps me become hyper aware of how well this new way of life, by stepping out boldly on spiritual principles, really works. And I'm always dreading, I got to write that article. It's getting close to the end of the month.
Really?
Well, no, because, I want it to be good. So I'm always like, oh no. And then I just turn it over. I'll put it in my God box. The right idea in the right way will come perfectly in divine order. I throw it all out there. And then as it gets down to the wire, some months I'm inspired early in the month. Other months I get your little nudge, it's a friendly little nudge that says, "Hey, you got the article?" And by that time, I usually have some sort of framework, but it hasn't really come together. But once I get that, all this is like that procrastination, I guess, that's stuck in me. But then when I have that and I start putting it together, I start getting, more and more enthusiastic. And then when I get done, I'm like a little kid, sharing something with daddy. I'm like, ooh, I wonder what Rob's going to think. Even though we're on the same wavelength and we're equal, but it still gives me that great feeling. And that great feeling is what actually attracts, I believe, more good things in my life. So that's why I'm grateful I get to write these articles. And I hope you never kick me out of the magazine.
No, never.
I'll keep showing up.
No, you're in for life, man. You're never going to escape. And here's the thing that's interesting is, I have been wanting to have you on. I mean, for those that, and this is actually, we've talked on the phone many, many times. We are legitimate friends. I very much consider you my friend, Darrell, not just oh yeah, he's, I consider you a friend. And we talk about stuff about the magazine. We talk about recent events and things like that as we're kind of recording this in the early part of the summer and stuff that's going on. It's kind of a different world. but I always look forward. I look forward to everybody's articles in every issue, and looking to have stuff be better every time. And some of them I have read several times, but I really regularly read your articles more than once, like 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 times. And sometimes I try to think about, they're so good, and there's so many little nuggets and Easter eggs that are in there. I try to remind myself who what these little principles are as I'm going along in my day. So, you know, I love to have you in the magazine, and this is exactly, your personality is exactly why, like, I think everybody loves you so much, loves your contribution, your features, because I was thinking about it and I was like, this is like one of the happiest people that I know, and I know that's not necessarily on purpose. Maybe it's by a lot of repetition, and now perhaps it's a lot easier than it is, but I want to get into that, and you can see right off the bat, like, this is one of the reasons why I love having you, having this section of the magazine, man. It's upbeat, it's happy, it's positive. You know, where does that come from? Where does all that come from?
Well, it takes a lot of work to be this happy, but it's worth it. I mean, it's funny. My brother's a federal agent, and we didn't grow up with the happiest of conditions. I mean, I'll just lay it out there. Now, this is no way to feel sorry for him, because nothing is left of my past but a blessing, and I mean that. But for a long time, it didn't seem that way. So, you know, my mom left when I was, I think, 8, and my brother was 4, and then my dad was raising us. My grandfather was murdered, and then my dad got cancer. Yeah, and that was in all the newspapers, and I felt so much shame, you know, going to school thinking, all the kids, the parents, they think, you know, this family, you know, what must he have been doing to deserve to be murdered? And he was a union official. So, and I grew up in New Jersey, and my last name's Fusaro. But I'll tell you something. If you ever meet another Italian kid from New Jersey named Darrell, give him my condolences. But, you know, we had this seemingly one thing after the other. You know, the hits just kept coming. I mean, everything but a fire in the orphanage. So, but as a result of all that seemingly negative stuff, it brought both myself and my brother to near collapse early on, and, you know, brought us to a more hopeful way of perceiving the world, and not by ourselves by any means, but by serendipitous moments where we just, thank heavens, agreed to go with the people that were presenting a better option than how we'd been living. But he's a federal agent now, and he gets asked the same question. He works really harrowing things. And his boss said, come on, man. How could you always be so happy? And he says the same thing. He goes, it takes a lot of work to be this happy. And I don't even wake up happy. I wake up a grumbler. I wake up and, you know, it's not until I do my morning routine, which is, you know, I have this set thing I've done since April of 1986. I was in Hawaii, introduced to this way of living through spiritual principles while I was in the military. I joined the military because I thought a little discipline would help me with my problem. But, you know, because I mistakenly believed, Rob, that discipline was putting enough impending punishment around myself that I'd be forced to walk the straight and narrow. But that doesn't work. You know, when you have a spiritual malady, a disciplinary solution isn't going to work, a romantic solution. And once I get this new girlfriend, everything's going to be great. You know, that doesn't work. A geographical, you know, once I join the Coast Guard and, I'm going to be stationed in Hawaii, everything's going to be great. And none of those things will solve a spiritual malady. But I was on a military base. I was 23. And I was at my lowest of the low, and we're walking out of a 12-step meeting on a military base, and these were like men. I mean, you know, this was the early 80s. These guys were like Vietnam still in the military, frontline guys. I mean, these were every bit of man that I felt I was not. And we're outside, and the one guy, Mike, says, so, you know, how's it going? You know, you got 30 days. I said, yeah, well, 30 days. And he said, come on, when did you ever have that much time before not drinking or using? And I said, never. And he goes, so what's the problem? And I said, I got serious problems, man. I'm going to go to Leavenworth here because I had all this. I had an impending court-martial, and, you know, I joined. Yeah.
What did you do?
That's a whole nother thing we don't even need to go into.
The statute of limitations are over?
No, it was just some nonsense. I got drunk one night in Kodiak, Alaska, and created such a powder keg in one day that it just wasn't good. And so I was quaking in my boots, you know, and a guy like, I mean, I joined the Coast Guard for a reason. Remember, I said I wanted discipline, but I went through the list. Marine Corps, I don't want that much discipline. Yeah. Army, the commercials then looked really dusty. The tanks in the dust. I was like, I don't want that. Navy, oh my God. I could feel my shoulders like tense up with anxiety, just like imagining having to keep that white uniform perfectly clean. So I was like, I can't do that. And here's where it gets tragic. When the idea of the Air Force came up, because my younger brother turned 17, and he was thinking about joining the Air Force, and I thought that was a great idea for me, not for him, because then I wouldn't have to worry about him, you know, because it was all we had was each other. And now, though, he always looked up to me, and I was writing him letters at this time how great I was doing, and I wasn't doing good. I mean, the classic, you know, I mean, everything from, this is right before I joined the Coast Guard, you know, the classic fixed punch through the sheetrock in the living room, you know, because you're angry one night, and just the power's off, and it was just. So, but I was telling him how great I was doing. I go, I can't join the Air Force because if my brother sees me, I'll be so ashamed. You know, that's the nature of this thing. The nature of this thing is, you know, I know the truth, but I desperately don't want to believe it. I mean, that's really denial. Denial isn't something that I'm not aware of what's going on. Denial is what brought me to my knees, because denial was, I know the truth, but I don't want to believe it. And I may seem like I'm not aware of my problem, because if you point out that I have this problem, I'm going to get angry because I don't want to believe it.
What is the problem?
You know, drinking. Mainly drinking, but I'd take anything if you had it. And so I'm going, I can't join the Air Force because I'll run into them. And then I think United States Coast Guard, you know, cool boats. Girls love these guys. They're like glorified lifeguards. It's going to be awesome. They didn't tell me that they had 378-foot Coast Guard cutters that patrol the Bering Sea. And that's where I ended up, you know. So, but
that's
now.
Cold, man. That's cold.
Yeah, but now I'm in front of this, you know, I'm at this leaving a meeting and talking to this guy. And this is the key to my happiness right here. He said, well, why don't you turn that over in your morning routine? I go, morning routine? What's a morning routine? And he started to say, you know, I read this prayer from this book, this, you know, all non-denominational stuff out of secular things, so it wouldn't set off any alarms, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm listening to him, and I guess he caught my face, and he said, look, I timed it just for you. It only takes 7 minutes. So he knew what I was thinking. And then he follows it up with this. He says, when was the last time you woke up and were just 7 minutes earlier, you know, and were kind and loving to Darrell? And when you hear this from a man, I was like, I said, never, Mike. And he said, listen, man. He said, if you can't wake up just 7 minutes earlier than you do now, before you shave, before you put on your uniform, before you take a shower, with your coffee, with your smokes, You know, because it's not about being perfect. It's about slowly evolving spiritually. And let's nip the serious stuff in the bud first, and then you'll develop and drop these other things. So that was another good thing. It wasn't be perfect now. And I said, never. And he said, well, look, if you can't just wake up earlier and spend 7 minutes to be kind and loving to Darrell, there's nothing anyone can do to help you. And then he said, but I guarantee you this, you do this for 30 days, and I guarantee you, even if you don't believe this stuff works, in 30 days you're going to be amazed at how much your life is going to transform for the better. And you know what? I wanted to believe that, because this immediately in my mind, the relief of not having to get these other guys on the, to tell the same story or figure out who I can get to like save my butt, it was just like, all right, I'll just do this. And let me tell you, man, it worked. And that's what now I wake up an hour before my wife, because when I wake up, even if I lay in bed, I wake up and I think, it's a wonderful day, miracle's going to follow miracle, wonders are never going to cease. I could say that, but I would still get up and then I'll be, blah, 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 blah. Look at this, oh, she left her shoes here, blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. But now, and I wrote a recent article about this last month, because now I know I got to treat myself like a kind and loving grandma. Yeah. So I'll be, come on, Darrell, just make the coffee, don't say anything, and let's do our routine. You're going to feel better. And I read these books, and my mind starts to now move in rhythm with the universe. I didn't know any of this stuff before. It sounds hokey, but meaning the universe actually means, the word means universe, one song, and it's harmonious. And when I'm feeling bad, it's because it's an indicator that my thinking is out of sync with this harmonious, positive flow of life. And these readings and prayer and meditation slowly link my brain up, and then I start feeling good. And now optimism starts to brew, because hope has been born within myself. So by the time it gets to 1:30, I'm reasonably happy, as long as I've eaten when I was hungry. If I didn't eat before this interview, I wouldn't be this guy. I'd be the Darrell Fusaro that you wouldn't want to meet.
Well, the thing is, I don't know that really even exists. It's hard for me to even believe, actually, the Darrell Fusaro that I wouldn't want to meet. And one of the things I really want to do in this interview is, I want to, as we're already doing right now, is I really want to showcase you and spotlight you, because, like I said, I really enjoy your content a lot. I find it to be both really, really deep, and it kind of stops me a lot of times, and I go, wow, like, that's interesting. And then some of the things are obvious, treat yourself well. But when I think about, like, what's the essence of life, like, one of the things I want to do, I don't think that happiness is our objective for our life. I think maybe it's to be of service to others, to tell people don't step there, that kind of thing, and to support one another, if I had to kind of pin it down. But, like, all things being equal, like, why not be happy? Like, why not be content and have peace and be satisfied? That's, I think, what at least my own pursuit all the time is, like, why not have peace? Let's talk a little bit about your illustrations and kind of your artists, because I always kind of talk about my artist friend. I love your articles, and they're awesome. But there's also these illustrations that you come up with. Have you always? When did this? Did you been an artist your whole life, or where did this start? And tell us a little bit about the Andy Warhol and all that.
Oh, okay. Well, this all goes. Everything's connected. And I just want to say one thing about happiness and joy, because I think joy sometimes is mistakenly considered trite, or if you get to be happy, great, but come on, there's serious stuff happening. And I firmly believe, and through my own experience. And, when I was in the military, I wasn't just, I didn't just bottom out in the military and then I was discharged. I mean, I served 4 more years clean and sober after I bottomed out. I served 1 year, and like I said, this was not a goal of mine. It wasn't a patriotic decision. This is all going to tie into the art, trust me. And the guy who, and what I want to say about joy is if joy is not joy is like true north. Joy is my indicator of whether or not my thoughts are in line with my best interests and in line with not just my best interest as Darrell, but also my best interest, meaning that results in being of service, because I'm talking about the ultimate my best interest, which is congruent with the harmony and unity of life. And when I mean unity, including all people. And this joy, when I'm feeling joyful, and they say joy is the strength of the Lord. It doesn't say joy is the strength of the Lord. And when you start to read all these different translations of the Bible and you realize, oh my God, there's this one, there's that one, and you realize that the original Greek translation, which was the first translation before Latin and King James English, joy is the strength, and Lord meant law. So what are they talking about? Joy is the strength of the law. It means joy means the strength of the law. And the law they're talking about is the law of attraction. As within, so without. And I like that you brought up peace, because peace and joy to me are synonymous. I can't be peaceful and not be joyful, and I can't be joyful and not be peaceful. And like how optimism seems cheap. People think it's cheap, but it's not cheap. A smiling man, this is all what I was learning in the military. I had Marines tell me this. Darrell, you want to know how a coward goes through life? A Marine gunny sergeant, Mike Urton. And this guy was a freaking gunny sergeant. This is the highest you get enlisted. This is a frontline, battle-tested Vietnam guy. And he says,
it's like Full Metal Jacket.
This is like the guy. And this guy cracked me open, man, with so much love. He said, you want to know how a coward goes through life? I says, yeah, this is when I was brand new to this stuff. And he says like this, and he holds up his fist like a fighter. And he said, I wasted my whole life like this because I was afraid of life. He says, wouldn't it be great to go through life like this? And he opened up his arms wide, and he just lit up. And in my mind, I thought, I'll do anything. I'll do anything to learn that. And what happened was, these guys were talking about love, 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 joy, joy, joy. Marines, battle-tested Marines, talking about power of happiness, joy, love. And they explained even the fact that, and this is, Dr. Charles Barker even said it, disease is a no system, health is a yes system. And I can't have a yes system. And addiction is a no system. An addiction is, I'm afraid, I want to hide out, no to life, give me some relief, booze, drugs, whatever. I want to temporarily avoid what I think is reality. Now, what I was avoiding was my own idea of my reality. So all this idea of that, and I got to share this with your listeners and viewers just to consider, because it blew my mind. Describing alcoholism and addiction also, this guy, Mike, the big Marine, says, listen, man, we're like a pond, and a pond, if it doesn't have and this pond is getting a continual flow, unlimited love can flow into this lagoon, this pond. But if there's no outlet, it starts to get stale. And when you're blocked up and closed off, no, 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 fear, 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 what happens is I'm afraid to let love out even more. I'm holding back. But now no new love is coming in. And just like, your pool, when it gets funky, you throw a little chlorine in, and it's good for a while. And that's what booze was like for me. Throw a little booze in the pond. I'm not letting any love out, but I'm getting a temporary, all right, things are cool. But then it gets funky again. And it's not until we start, and I'm doing this long, giant journey just to get back to the truth in your statement about service. But it's not until I start letting the love out that I start really healing. What's the first thing that gets washed when you clean what's the first thing that gets washed, cleansed when you clean your car?
The hood, I guess. I don't know.
The inside of the hose.
Oh,
so when the love flows through, right, I start to heal. And that flow of love, when I'm being of service, and doing what you love is being a service, not doing what you don't love. Early on in this thing, I asked Mike, I said, I really want to be an artist, but what if God wants me to be an accountant? Because I used to think thy will be done meant I really want to do this, but thy will be done. I'll do whatever you probably don't have anything fun for me. And he said, he just asked me a simple question. He goes, do you like working with numbers? I said, no. And he goes, don't you think that God would rather have someone who loves working with numbers be an accountant? And it dawned on me, it's like you can't be good at anything you don't like to do. And if you like to do something, it brings joy to you. Yeah. And that joy, no one gets rich in America without making other people rich. No one gets happy. No one gets joy. When I'm joyful, I love everybody. It's like the old days. I could see a guy resent. I have a couple of Bacardi 151s. Now I got my arm around him. I love you, man. That was just a false, sedative I was giving myself. But now, when I'm feeling good about what I'm doing, I want to do more of it. But not only that, I'm kinder to others. I'm more generous. It affects everything. And even though I ended up working in law enforcement in the military, while I was with the Coast Guard, I was a liaison with Hawaii Armed Service Police, which was a joint service task force of Marines, Navy, Army, Air Force, and one Coast Guard guy, me. And what I would do in my spare time when I had downtime, first at the Honolulu Police Department, back then we would roll fingers for fingerprints with ink. They don't do that anymore. It's all a computer. But back then we would roll, the ink out, roll their finger, hold their finger. And so I started, I made a bunch of little 3x5 cards, and I started fingerprinting them up. And I would just turn them into little people, little scenes, and then I'd mail them to people, little postcards. And
that's hilarious.
Yeah, and I noticed this really made me feel good. And when I got transferred I became the liaison to the Honolulu Prosecuting Attorney's Office, first with Charles Marsland and then Keith Kaneshiro. I didn't have access to fingerprinting, so I just started doing illustrations. And in my spare time, mind you, I'm conducting crazy investigations, but then anytime I had a break, the mail just came. That's that noise in the background. Thank you. So I started doing these little illustrations on my spare time, and they ended up getting used in the Coast Guard and Military Times. It became I created a Coast Guard character named Pokey for the 14th District in Hawaii. He was a little surfer guy. It was used on all their promo stuff, in the civilian world, whenever they did a little something that went in the local paper, the Honolulu Star Bulletin or whatever. And I would do stuff for the police, prosecutor's office, and I even did cartoons weekly for Entertainment Weekly in Honolulu.
Oh, wow.
So it started as, just another thing to be of service, and that made me feel good, and it evolved. And that's how I ended up really committing to it. However, I didn't tell you, prior to the Coast Guard, I did get accepted to art school in spite of all the nightmare with my father dying and my mom and all that crap. And I didn't have to pay a penny. But,
wow.
Yeah, it sounds really good, but let me tell you what happened. I don't know if you know this, but they take all the freshmen to the senior art exhibit when you're brand new, and to see all the great stuff you might be able to accomplish in 4 years. And this is great for well-adjusted freshmen. But I looked at all that stuff. I could still see that gallery. I went, what's the use? And drinking then gave me the sense of a feeling of accomplishment without having to do anything. I had this mistaken idea drilled into my head somewhere, I don't know where I invented it, that if I didn't already know how to do something perfectly, I thought people were just born with talent, others weren't, then why bother? But it was also coupled with, if it doesn't look like it's something that I could be the master of by next Tuesday, screw it.
I know
it was horrible.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Let me ask you this, because you are very thoughtful and introspective, disciplined, and then you've taken the actions to kind of mold yourself into what you are today. Because from rough upbringings, and like I said, you can see it. You're smiling, you're laughing, and then I know that you're very spiritual, and it's not from a denomination or anything like that. But what do you feel that our purpose for life is here? Why do we exist? I know that you've thought about these things. I don't know that I don't think we've ever had that conversation, but what's the purpose here? What's this all about?
Well, it's funny because I never really thought I'd be asked that on a radio show. Didn't see that coming. But as soon as you asked it, something just popped into my mind, and I think it's a lesson in love. All risk is a lesson in abandon and trusting. And trust, I have to trust in love to do anything, or I'm stifled. So I think it really is a lesson in love, to be so free that I could, and humble. And humble isn't what I used to think of. I used to think, well, yeah, don't look too happy. Don't be, just feel bad all the time and put others before you. And that's humble, And now I know humble means to not be ashamed of myself, to be able to share the ideas that pop into my head intuitively, to not stifle my enthusiasm if I'm really enthusiastic, or not stifle. Don't say that because they might think you're stupid. To let those. That's humility, and I think it feels like that's my lesson, because whenever I step out on, you better not say anything, but my higher self says, no, just ask them, and I ask, and it works out better than expected. Mm-hmm. Or I follow an intuitive hunch out of love. Intuition is always a joyful nudge. Push and shove is always from my cerebral, from almost a feeling of lack, that there's not enough, and we're separate competing organisms. A joyful hunch is like, no, we're here to cooperate. It's a cooperative feeling, and then I lose that sense of competitiveness, and then magic starts to happen. Opportunities open up.
So what do you think, let's talk a little bit about, one of the things in the last issue that this will be in, because this is going to go into our next issue, next and last, but in the last issue that we have, it's a current issue that's out today, our May 2020 issue. I wrote up. I have a letter from the editor, and I wrote up my true feelings about everything. And honestly, maybe I'm watching too much of the news. I don't really know. Now at my age, it's not like, like my kids are like, why do you watch the news? I don't know. I think it's also very addictive too, by the way. I think it fires off things in the brain. I have to be aware of that. But, I've been pretty angry about a lot of the things with the virus, and then now, like, so we're doing this now, like the world is burning down, and then I'm angry about the injustice, and I'm angry about the, burning the cities, and and it feels really kind of hopeless, honestly. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is not to go dark, because I wrote some stuff, this is, for the last issue, that, it literally started out, I'm pissed off. In fact, I'm really pissed off. And I went on this long rant, and I sent it to you, and I sent it to somebody else, and you had sent me back something. You said, I find that a lot of times when I wait a day or two before I do something, which is like, oh, okay, well, that was a nice way to say, like, yeah, probably not, you might want to rethink that. And I did, and then I came up with this whole new idea about, like, taking the high road, like, when all hope is lost, somebody needs to stand up and say, like, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. So my question as I kind of come to this is, I struggle a bit with, like, is this, if I listen to my 16-year-old daughter and I say, okay, I just don't watch the news. Like, I don't, I have all the information I need right now. Am I sticking my head in the sand, right? Or, like, I want to help and be part overall of the solution, which is either it's to protest or it's to this or it's to that. And one of the things that you helped me with a little bit was like, no, like, your mission is the magazine, or this is our mission, is to do this kind of a thing. What are your thoughts kind of on, like, living a life that's like sunshine and rainbows, and we're ignoring the realities are out there, or that, maybe we're just saying somebody else, that's for somebody else. That's not my fight. That's for somebody else. I mean, how do you reconcile those kinds of things?
Yeah, these are very pertinent things you're bringing up, and your feelings are not, you're not unique in your feelings. I go through this daily, especially with these things going up. But here's what I know what's like, am I just putting my head in the sand? Yeah. I understand all that thinking, because I'm
being a coward, because if I don't stand up and risk and or take a stand and or say something, or maybe I'm playing to the audience, like, well, that might piss some people off, or not everybody feels that way, because we live in a very polarized world right now, and I have to realize, like, I really don't care. I just want to cast a wide net for those that want to keep their shit together, man. Like, right. They want to, like mental health, sobriety, the pursuit of happiness, but there are, like, real things that are going on that are external beyond our own rose-colored glasses.
Well, yes and no. And the only reason I say that is because I can say it from personal experience during harrowing times while I was, sober, living this way in the Coast Guard, and in my personal life. After, living this way. I'm not talking about the old Darrell and, just being a blundering bumbler during, crisis and chaos going around me of my own volition, and not of my own making, that I just, as a young child, had to grow up with. But what am I doing now, and is it really being helpful? And this is all I can say on this is, I really, and it's going to sound bizarre, but like we started this episode off, humility, like you said, like you're sharing now, is being able to share what I really feel is true, regardless of how it may be taken. And the good news is I may be a different person 3 weeks from now and
Very
not think
cool.
the same way I'm thinking when I say these things.
Yeah.
But over the long stretch, what seems to be consistent is the best thing I can do, regardless if I'm called to action or my action is to be the kind, loving, solid foundation to my family, that example, because that's a big deal. You know, not so much jumping out into the arena, but the arena within my own little family. Who's going to be the solid, make it feel safe for everybody?
That's big. That's
big. Because without that, everything becomes a house of cards. And what I'm going to say is, this is where if you don't have joy as your true north, then you don't know, or I don't know, if I don't have joy as my true north, meaning, like I said earlier, when I'm feeling joyful, and an optimist is a confident and courageous person. I've never met a courageous pessimist. I've never met a confident pessimist. And I've also never met a miserable optimist. But the optimism comes from somewhere deeper. And it has to come from me from the belief that in spite of what the ruckus is, if it's not, and this I learned when I was in the military, because there was shit, I mean, you know, sometimes chaos and law enforcement. I mean, I had just horrible, I don't need to bring nightmares into the show, but just understand, not so pleasant things happened in that job. And I was constantly reminded, Darrell, it's not happening to you, it's happening around you. And the best thing you can do is maintain your peace. And if I maintain my peace, then no matter what throughout my day arises, I am able to not just experience, but to be able to respond to that situation in a way that's going to be helpful and affirmative rather than chaotic and confused.
I look at it this way. I think of it this way. The way that I think about it is that if our objective is to be of the most service or to be our best self, whatever that might be, to be helpful, to be generous, to be kind, to be loving, if this is to instill hope, all of the things that I know that we both embody, if that overall is the objective, and to be a good father and a good husband and a wife, whatever, if that's the objective, I look at a lot of the external things as it's like being in an airplane and the frickin' masks just drop down. And what is the rule when the masks drop down that says right on the thing? You probably know what it is, right? What are you supposed to do?
Yeah, put your mask on first. Don't panic.
You put your own mask on first.
Yeah.
Before you put it on your kids or your anybody like that.
Yes.
So I think about it and I'm like, okay, the first thing in order for me to be the most helpful is I got to keep my own shit together. I have to keep my own. So if I'm angry and pissed off or depressed, depression is anger that's turned inwards, and why is this happening to me again?
Yes.
Again, it's unfair, the injustice, all the things like that. If I internalize all those kind of things, I don't have my own mask on.
No.
And so I have to think about, like, okay, first I got to be able to, is that the same, am I on the same train of thought?
Yes, you're on that is the same train of thought. That's it in a nutshell. First things first, I must maintain my peace. And if I really want to be effective in changing the world for the better, I got to start with the people I bump into within my little day, because it works as a ripple effect. The problem I think that's happening now I'm going to sound like someone's father, but I am 58. I don't know why my mind doesn't believe that. I was just talking with someone today. Okay, this is what's going on today. This morning, I drew something, and I'm always trying to draw something. Not always, but every morning I do my morning routine, my prayer, my meditation, and even before my wife gets up, I write in my journal. Now, because I'm from New Jersey,
journal.
Yeah, it's called a journal. So just this morning, after this whole thing, I wrote, "There's a harmony to the universe, and prayer gets me in sync with that harmonious vibration, which is love. And when I'm in tune with love, I'm out of sync with fear and immune to harm. Today I have a great time with God as my partner and creative director and guide." See, there you. There's Hanley at 1:30. So then I get inspired to draw something. So this morning I drew something, and I drew this guy.
You write in that every day? How long of a streak is that, by the way?
Dude, I have thousands of these. I can't even.
Do you ever miss a day writing in your journal?
No, and that, you know why? Because I kept it easy, simple.
Yeah, we're going to include a couple of illustrations of the journal in this piece, by the way.
Yeah. Today I honor God by sharing my gifts freely and enthusiastically. And I go, yes, that makes me...
But you haven't missed a day in how long? You can't even remember, or how long?
34 years.
Every day.
Yeah, but it's not a hard thing to do. Don't make it hard. Look, for instance, it's only a page or two.
Sounds hard to me.
No, it's simple. All I do, folks, is I do my morning routine, and afterwards I start considering my day. And I know the to-do list, and these guys taught me, and I still think of it this way. My to-do list I think of as just my best attempt at what I think God's will is for me today. So that way it keeps me flexible. That way if something on my list doesn't get done or appointment gets changed, I don't go, oh, man. I just go.
Oh, that's good, man. I like that.
I just go, all right, okay. God's got something better in store. I wonder how this is all going to turn out. And the things that I wrote, these little notes, they're only like 2 or 3 sentences. I don't kill myself. Speaking of how to deal with this. So this came to me. I must remember that I'm an ambassador of love, especially to those who irritate me. And I don't mean that sardonically. I mean that if someone's upsetting me, I've learned that anytime that comes up, fear always condemns, love forgives. So when I'm starting to condemn someone or feel irritated, that's fear. And love, God is love. So wherever I switch to being forgiveness and love, God's in the equation.
Is there no evil? Do you feel like there's good and then there's evil? We talk a lot about God. Is there actually an evil? I'm of the belief that evil is real, that there's freaking evil in the world.
Well, I definitely believe that we're capable of pretty bizarre things when we're not in tune to this higher reality. Because when I'm in tune with this, like when I'm feeling good about myself, I don't want to screw with other people. Yeah. But when I'm not feeling good about myself, it's usually because, like I said, my thought, my feelings are my biofeedback system to whether I'm off course or on course. And if I'm starting to feel like, look at this jerk, and I'm going to get to this story with my drawing this morning, then I got to realize, wait a minute, I'm getting off course here. I'm starting to drift into fear. Now, if I drift into fear, and this is why I said if you don't have joy as your true north, then I'm capable of justifying all sorts of nonsense. Trust me, I've done it. Even practicing this way of life, I make.
So if you were dealing with somebody, if somebody came to you and said, Darrell, I'm feeling a lot of fear right now. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world. There's a lot of things like that. I'm really feeling. What can I do? What can I do to help myself because I feel I'm paralyzed, or I'm angry, or I'm terrified, or I've lost hope overall for the future. In fact, I have to say, I try to always be transparent. Like I've got an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old, and sometimes I wonder, like, if I'm kind of starting to live in a dystopian world, like maybe this is the beginning of the Hunger Games or something like that. I know that's not hopeful and optimistic, but it is true. And at least I kind of bring these things out in hope to get an antidote. You know,
Yes.
I want to think differently. I really do, and it's not like I'm stuck. It
Right.
ebbs and flows. So if somebody came to you, me, or whoever it was,
Right.
and said, I'm feeling fearful, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that. What would you tell them to do? Then to journal, or what would you say?
I would say, of course you are. Of course. Who wouldn't? I hear you.
Yeah,
I hear you.
okay.
But by continuing to repeat those thoughts, it only makes me feel worse.
Yeah, it doesn't help.
No. And this is the problem, and I was going to say about getting to my little drawing. So I drew a little, this is going to go along with this perfectly. I drew a little drawing this morning. So positive. I loved it. You know, every once in a while these turn out, and I go, ooh, I drew that. Oh, don't touch it. You'll ruin it. It's perfect. So it was one of those. I was excited, and I went to, I'll put it on my Instagram. Share it. Well, I go on Instagram, and it was like, you know, because I'm very sensitive, man, and it was all like this, you know, outrage over what's going on, you know, injustice and all this stuff. It was like, it was like I stuck my head. It was like I opened my door and outside, It was like medieval times, and all it was this little phone that I was looking at. So I said, you know what? I don't need to put this thing out today. I'll delete Instagram from my phone for today so I don't automatically decide to look at it.
Oh, that's good. I haven't done that.
Oh, it's heaven. And this is what came to me later because someone else was talking to me about it. I said, look, man, I said, the problem, this is just me. You know, some people may hate me for saying this, but anyway. So I realized that social media has made it far too easy for people like me or anybody I know, you know, sitting in their nice home to post something and feel like they've participated in the solution.
That's true. Yeah.
But it's not real. It's just all you did. This is a fake little world. It's not it's not even real. But it becomes real, and now I feel like, you know, here I am at my pool.
It can be very consuming too.
Well, here's the thing. I'm at my pool. I put a little, you know, black square up, or I'm posting pictures that I saw that someone else, you know, a bag of poo someone threw in my backyard. Now I'm posting that bag of poo and throwing it in your backyard. And it gives me this false sense, or most people, that I've done my part. But I haven't done my part. And I got to remember, you know, doing my part.
By posting a black square, for example?
Yeah. And I've had people on both, you know, a friend of ours who's African American, he posted something that said, please don't post any more of these black squares. Like, so the whole thing is turning into a nightmare, right? And so I just get off quickly, like, you know, I don't even post anything. I don't need to look at it anymore. I don't want to be part of this nightmare. It's not my reality. It's not. My reality is right here with you. And my reality, up until this thing, I mean, for 40-something years, for 50 years, I lived where I didn't show people, like, I didn't post a picture of my best self and I could go, and have this false, like, that's denial because I'm not living it. You know, I've always had to, you have to participate, but you don't have to tell everybody. And now everyone's telling them each other by sharing something they heard, and they feel like they're participating. And that's the problem. And that's what feels bad. It feels bad because it's not real. When it's real, it feels good. When I feel compassion and joy for doing the right thing, which is always the case, that's how you know it's the right thing to do. If you're called through joy, it's always the right thing.
Do you think that we have that there is a hope? You know, I wonder, the conversations I've had today, kind of in terms of what's currently going on, is how do you get past all of this? Like, is there? I'm not asking you the how, but do you think that there's hope? Like there is a, you know, I know that we can stay sober. I know that we can keep our act together, but like, I think everybody just wants to start to heal. But how do you find hope in the external? Maybe not even with the current events, but just the external.
Well, here's the thing. Can I read you something? I got something I read that me and my buddies read a lot. All these things are handy because it's from my morning routine. Let me just get it. I got it right here. Okay. This isn't fake, folks. I actually do this. Hang on. Now, I got it. First of all, the key is I have to choose to believe that this stuff's for real.
Yeah.
Now, that the belief and hope is real. And also joining forces with good is a part of being joyful. And because joy is confidence. You cannot be a smiling man is a confident man. He feels his future is, even for that day, is assured. You know, a man who's got a grimace is a man who's teetering on fear. And that's not courage, but hang on. It's a reading. Now watch. This is a book I read from every morning. It's called Around the Year with Emmett Fox. And one of our favorite readings is, oh boy, don't tell me I'm not, is The Captain is on the Bridge. And I just read it recently. But basically what he says is, he basically says how, you know, the world is not going to pot. That the world and the human race has been through series and series of things worse than we are now, you know, even more devastating.
Interesting that's probably written 100 years ago or something like that.
Yes, this is written nearly 100 years ago. Yeah. And he says, and we always get through it by remembering that the captain is always on the bridge. I can't find it in here, and I don't want to take up time looking for it, but I can summarize it because I read it so much. That the captain is always on the bridge. And the captain is your belief in whatever God is. And the one belief I like to choose is love, benevolence, because that I could put I could agree with that in mind. And once I do, it feels good. And I judge everything. It really hits me deep.
You know it. You know it.
Yeah, I know it. And that's how I get through it personally. I got to just keep remembering, the captain's on the bridge. The captain's on the bridge. And by doing that, then what does that do? How is that helping? Yeah, he's living in a No, I'm not. Even if I'm living in a fantasy world, what does that do to me personally? Well, what does it do? It puts me in a more hopeful state. So when I walk around my neighborhood, whoever I encounter, I am now a beacon of hope. Mm-hmm. I'm a friendly face in the storm. You know, here's another thing, you know, when this is how we got to realize that I really don't believe this is the end, because when it's the end, you don't have the option of thinking, I'm going to start believing pessimistically. For instance, when I was on a ship in the Bering Sea, we hit some pretty rough seas. And, you know, my first time out there, it's scary, man. I mean, this boat is being tossed like a freaking cork.
Going in the water is not an option either.
No, and back then there was no we didn't have GPS. This is 1984 or 5.
You're dead meat.
We didn't have GPS. All our stuff was old-timey sailor stuff, even though it was the 80s. So no one could find you know, if something really happened, it'd be hard to figure out. They'd have to plot and figure where the last they heard us, and then even then you drift. And you got like 5 minutes in the water because it's so cold before you just fall asleep from hypothermia, and that's it. Lights out. So, but here's the point. The point is, when that was happening, nobody on the ship was going, that's it, we're going to die. No.
Yeah.
Everyone wanted to have hope. And They're saying, "Don't worry, hang on. The captain's on the bridge." We were literally like, we would like that was the like if we saw someone scared, hang on, don't worry, we're gonna get through it. No big deal, you know. And what happens now? This is another thing. There's power. Prayer really does change things. Prayer doesn't just make me feel like I have now the moxie to get through this. Prayer, because they're thoughts. Even if you don't believe spiritually, every thought has a frequency. And there's medical and more and more medical research and proof. Positive thoughts release helpful hormones and boost the immune system and calm the nervous system. Fearful thoughts, anxious thoughts, depressive thoughts lower the immune system, release toxins into the body, overload, your adrenals go overboard. So there's something about this, whether you believe in God or not, that erring on the side of hope is actually more advantageous than not.
Yeah.
And of course you could find quotes all the way back to probably Seneca and who knows how far back before that, where they talk about it's always better to hope than despair. No matter what, it's better to hope than despair. And that hope of that group think, the group prayer, two or more gathered together, and boom, because that, like I was saying, prayer changes things. Those thoughts change the body. They change it. Think about it. A man has one thought. This is proof how your thought affects everything. A man has one thought, and whoop, he has an erection. So these thoughts are powerful, but they don't just stop with the body. And when there's two or more, and I believe this collective thought on that ship of we're going to get through this, we got through it.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. As I said, kind of toward the beginning, I really wanted to be able to showcase what I've fallen in love with through your writing and your illustrations, and then our phone conversations. And I really feel like we actually, really got into the core of it. And I think that others, or my hope and my intention is that others find you as attractive overall as a human as I do. And also, I think it's kind of a tuning fork kind of a deal. Like you hit one, and then it catches the next one, and it catches the next one. Because my thought is, like, why not live in a hopeful, optimistic type of, it's not ignoring things that are around you, but, like, why not live that way? And so kind of from the tag you're it type of perspective, because it's, I don't know, man. I think that it's something that if we're, not to be overly cliche, but in terms of infecting people is that it is infectious. I do know that it takes cultivation. Weeds naturally grow in your garden.
Yes.
You don't got to do anything for weeds. I can tell everybody without 1% of hesitation, being pissed off and being angry and being sad and entertaining, depressive type of thoughts, it actually doesn't suddenly just, God or whoever it is, or the universe or whatever, they don't finally just go, he's had enough, man. Like, now here's your winning lottery ticket. Like, it just doesn't happen. The only way that I find that kind of a thing happens if somebody is in a depressive, mentally down, discouraged, despair type of a thing is, I think you got to just muscle up, man. Like, I have heard that there's a circle that, actions will follow feelings, but also feelings will follow action.
Yes.
And so this is kind of like, okay, you don't feel like it, well, you do it anyway, man.
Yeah.
And then you do it, and you do it, and you do it, and it's hard. And then finally you actually start to feel it a little bit. The principle of momentum is kind of what comes to my mind.
Yeah, well, actually, because it's rewriting. Your brain is actually now getting used to a brand new circuitry, and I'm like you. I mean, every day, you want to go, oh, great. I got to continue to apply this stuff in my life to just get through a day. Well, yeah, because it makes you happy if you do it. I forget that part when I'm thinking depressive. Years ago, hang on, people are calling me during this. That's because I have this high tech, Mac, so the phone goes through the computer and unfortunately it interrupts great conversation. But getting back to square one is, now I forgot my train of thought, but that the thinking, the negative thoughts and the depressive feelings. I mean, years ago I was ready to, kill myself. It seemed like a reasonable. I just felt so overwhelmed and so full of everything. I didn't want. Life was hard because that's how I was looking at it. I didn't see any hope.
I can relate.
And a guy said this, and this sentence saved my life. And it was just this brief sentence. He said, Darrell, suicide, and everyone's probably heard it because it sounds cliche, but man, it saved me and my brother. Suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. I shared that with my brother when I was 23 and he was 19. He still remembers that as saving his life.
Yeah.
And, don't kill yourself because the person you're killing is not even who you really are. It's just who you temporarily are in this moment and how you're reacting to whatever the chaos is going around outside you or even within your own mind.
Good, man. We could talk about that for a ton. How can people get back in touch with you? I love your website. So what's your website?
Okay, my website is very easy to remember. I had it, it has my name, but my name is so Italian and Darrell and all this jazz. So here it is. It's thiswillmakeyouhappy.com. Thiswillmakeyouhappy.com.
But of course, that's why I'm laughing. Like, I know your website. I see it every single month, but I wanted you to say it because I think everybody that's watched this far to get to it. Of course, this website's called This Will Make You Happy.
I can't believe no one took that web name.
Hilarious. No, that's only for you, man. That was designated for you. Well, I could go on another hour. I always love talking with you. I love reading your articles. We're going to include one of your articles and some illustrations, and we'll kind of build it around. I'm thinking or suggesting that we build it around this. I also want to include a picture or something like that. You can find it of the captain on the bridge in here too, so that we can get that. But
oh yeah, I'll forward you that writing later today.
Okay.
So you'll have it to share with everybody.
So this has been an overdue interview. I don't know how many years. How long have you been with Recovery Today now? A couple years, 3 years?
You know what's weird? It's probably longer than it feels because it just feels like it's new. Like I don't feel sick of it yet. That's actually the best compliment I could give you.
I don't even know. I can't. I'm trying to think how you even came on board, man. I just saw this. I remember our editor Sherry had said, "Oh yeah, God, I love this guy." I go, "I know, man. I love all this stuff. Like we need to bring him in studio. We need to do this, and now we're kind of doing, Zoom type of stuff." But I just want you to know I appreciate you. There's a lot of our readers just love your stuff that's out there. I love these kind of conversations. No, we didn't really get like into the sober story, but obviously you got it. It's all
this is it.
It's what it is, man. So. If you hang on 1 second, I'm going to wrap up here. Everybody, this has been, of course, another fun, cool. I enjoyed it. It was therapeutic for me. Gave me a shot of dopamine here as well. My friend Darrell Fusaro, Recovery Today magazine, at thiswillmakeyouhappy.com. So hang on 1 second.